Good afternoon, good people. Good afternoon, good people. It's Wednesday. Hump day. Mike, 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 Mike. Lord knows I've heard that many times. Before I go into the video adding on to my Wadleigh days, I first ask for prayer, continued prayer for my children. My daughter's really having a rough time with this all. I don't think I've ever felt as helpless as I did yesterday when she was talking about not being here, and that definitely was a reminder, or continued reminder, that I have to try to figure out how to always bring her out, try to figure out how to show her, that I love her more so than ever, and just try to help bridge the gap. So please continue to pray for my family. Going back to Wadleigh days, wow. Wadleigh was on 114th Street between 7th and 8th, right in the, the, the core of the beginning of Harlem. And so it was unlike any school I ever been to in my entire life. It was definitely, even Dome didn't compare to that, because even though Dome was an alternative school, they still had more a presence there than they did at the school I went to. So Wadleigh was mostly all the kids from all around the neighborhood, and so these kids was into everything. We was all into everything. You can imagine a Harlem kid. We all was into everything, and so I had a little crew. I always been a person that got along with people from everywhere. So it was nothing for me to see me with this group one day, to see me with this group the next day, to see me with my little clique the next day. I never really got it too much into, just because you don't like somebody don't mean I don't have to like somebody. One thing about me, I'm not going to let nobody speak ill about anybody else in my presence as well. So I never played defense, but I definitely wasn't playing either side as well. But so Wadleigh was it was it was nothing to see a bunch of kids in the staircase rolling dice. There was nothing to smell weed in the school. There was nothing to see people making out under everywhere. There was nothing to see deals go down. And I felt for them teachers. Oh my God, I felt for them teachers, because they was there out of their passion, and we made their life hell. I say we because I'm pretty sure I was part of that to whatever degree, but we made their lives hell. And the school, like I said, it was nothing to see guns in school. It was nothing to see drugs in school. So it was my first real introduction into how crazy, how wild Harlem was. And oh my God, so many of us, so many of us. Once again, a few of them passed on. A few of my buddies passed on, and that's the sad thing about it. A lot of them never got a chance to fulfill their dreams, and God had other plans for them. So, but yeah, Wadleigh. So Wadleigh was very wild, very wild. Before I left Wadleigh, hold up, I was in Wadleigh. I think I got my first case in Wadleigh. No, probably a little after that. But I really tapped into my wild side in Wadleigh, because in the neighborhoods, in the streets, I was always known. I was, but I was known for a lot of different things for certain people. Um, Once I got my wild streak, everybody else around me had wild streaks too, so it was nothing to see, people clash and people go at each other's neck. But me, I never really had any issue in Harlem. Never really had an issue in the streets of Harlem. And so it was definitely, excuse me for the, it was definitely, it got me prepared for everything life is going to throw at me. Everything life is going to throw me, it got me prepared for. So, it went from, I think I met my son's mother, Emily. Yeah, I met Emily when I was in Wadleigh. I met Emily when I was at Wadleigh heading to Brandeis. And so, that was my childhood girlfriend, Barikwa. So that was her actually, she had her own life. Oh my God, she had her own life, her own, her dad was a big time guy in the streets. So, she was the daughter that held a lot of this stuff down. So, she was there for me as well. And it was really about just establishing myself as I won't say a threat. I really don't want to see myself as a threat, myself as a threat back then. It was just establishing myself as a force to be reckoned with. And when you're young and in Harlem, you want to be you want to definitely be a force to be reckoned, because you definitely don't want no one taking you lightly. You don't want no one disrespecting you. You don't want no one just having an opinion of you that's not going to be favorable. So I definitely had a reputation for being wild and popping off, and I had been introduced to guns at that time, and so it was nothing for me to be in a altercation or anything. And at this time, I was, it was, things was definitely blowing up in Harlem. A lot of people was going back and forth out of town. I was going back and forth out of town, D.C., Maryland. I came up under some very popular guys, and so they always was out of town. So I went out of town with them. Whatever it was to get, whatever it took to get money, that's where I was at. That was my mind state, my makeup was about the money. And so I went back and forth out of town with them off and on, and I definitely remember getting in trouble in Maryland or in D.C. Remember getting locked up in D.C. and doing some time and finally getting released. I think I did time in Maryland, and then I got out, came back to New York. Then from there on, it was just about the hustle game. It was about just establishing myself. One thing about me and my siblings, I was adamant on no one's going to do anything to my siblings. No woman's going to threaten my siblings. No woman's going to rope my siblings into anything that was street. I knew in my mind what I wanted to do for my siblings. I knew in my mind where I wanted to keep them from and what I wanted to do to protect them from the street. Because I had seen everything. And throughout all of this, I had a big cousin, Big E, who was very popular, well known. He held me down in the streets for years and still hold me down if I go to Harlem. And so, I learned a lot about life from my cousin, my big cousin, a lot about, hustling from my big cousin, and also learned, but what I should have learned from my cousin was how to be a Jew, how to hold on to money, how to really sit back and sit there and let it work for you. Me, I never had that upbringing. Never had the comfortability to be able to sit back and just see what your money do for you, because as I changed my position, I wanted to change my siblings' position. As I came up, I wanted to change everybody that was in my circle, change their position as they came up with me. That's always been my makeup. You know, if I come up, I want everybody to come up with me. If I get something, I want everybody to get it with me. Because that was my opinion of that's how you keep the whole clique happy, and no one looking at your bag, and no one looking at what you got on your plate, because they got their own plate in front of them with their own food. So the way you do that is you make sure everybody's eating. And so I learned that from growing up. I learned that from being around my cousin. I learned that from being around Eric. I learned that from being around Jim. I learned that from being around Charlie. I learned that from mostly those three men, and of course the other gentlemen and men I met in the street along the way. I definitely have to give kudos to my Uncle Bubba as well, because, you know, even though he was my uncle, he was the father figure I had in my life. And so sort of hurting right now for Bubba. He's been missing for about like 5 to 7 years. No one can seem to find him anywhere. So that's definitely a bad look right there for me. But going back to Wadleigh days, you know, it was crazy. You know, we would get out of school, go to the liquor store, go get high. We was all over the place, and I wind up actually I met Joey. It was my boy Joey. Everybody know me from back in the day. They knew my boy Joey. Rest in peace. They knew he was my boy, and that was my ride or die right there. So met Joey right in the height of everything. When I came back to New York and I got back out and I was in school, went back to school. Shortly after that, so me and Joey was running wild. That was my boy. We ran around. We did a bunch of different things, and unfortunately, when I was away one time on Rikers Island fighting the case, Joey was released, and there's a gentleman that's very popular till today in Harlem. He wanted Joey to do a joke for him, do a job for him, and he wanted. Well, I don't know exact, but anyway, Joey was given a defective firearm, and he did the job. He's leaving out of there, and he is being chased, and he went to use the firearm, and it jammed on him, and they caught him and killed him. You know, and that was devastating to me. That was devastating to me. It still is devastating to me. And no, that's mine. Just tell me I got a order. But it was devastating to me, you know. And Joey had a baby boy, and for the life of me, I just have been all over the place, but have not been in this boy's life yet. And I'm definitely looking forward to change that in time. Definitely change that in time. But when Joey died, it was a wrap for me. I went wild. You know, I wound up hanging with some of the crazies, some of the older guys that had long criminal records and all. So that's who I surrounded myself with at that point. And you know, it was only a matter of time before, you know, it all caught up to me. So in the process of moving So in the process of, I think I graduated from Wadleigh, or I wound up getting transferred to Brandeis High School. Everybody knows Brandeis High School, 84th, between Amsterdam and Columbus. A lot of popular, famous people went to Brandeis. Oh my God, I've looked it up so many times, and I'm always amazed to see all the people that went to Brandeis, all the celebrities, all the thugs, whoever you was, everybody that went to Brandeis had their own style, their own little thing about them that was always stood out. But I'm at 15 minutes right now. I'm gonna stop it here, and I'm gonna add on to Brandeis tomorrow. But yeah, it's getting good. It's getting good. It's definitely giving me a chance to reflect over things I hadn't talked about in years. And I thank all of you all. Oh my God, I thank all of the family and everybody for just filling in some of these blanks for me. And I'll tell you where the blanks come at soon. But be blessed. Love you all. Love somebody. Love somebody. Hug somebody. Reach out to somebody. You know, just show somebody you there. I have noticed that a lot of people in my life are sort of standing by on the sidelines and not really wanting to. I guess feeling like they don't want to ruffle my feathers or bother me right now when I'm going through this time of grief. But honestly, this is the time when people want people to reach out to you. This is the time when you want to hear from people, boy. Like, I've been blessed to hear from some of my family members I haven't heard from in long conversations in a very long time. So, with that said, love you all. Be blessed. Have a great day. Tomorrow's Thursday. We're going to do it again. Talk to y'all then.